Hey, today we're going to answer the question, why can't one Docker container talk to another Docker container? And if you're pretty advanced in this stuff, you want to skip to the end, yes, Docker Compose will solve that problem. We'll look at why, but there are other ways to solve that problem without writing a bunch of YAML. Anyway, I've got this Node.js app, right? This is a demo app that I'm going to use in an upcoming talk for Open Tofu Day. And all it does, it's got these three endpoints, and they basically just point to this Mongo.js file, and that interacts with a MongoDB, right? I don't want to install MongoDB. I want to run that in a Docker container. So let's see what happens when I try and spin this up inside a Docker container and talk to a MongoDB inside a Docker container. Are they going to talk to each other? Let's find out. Before we get to that, now's a good time to remind you, please, if you like this content, you want to see more of it, feel free to subscribe or like the video and offer a comment below. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you'd like to see. Okay, so I'm in my terminal in the folder where my admin server Node.js app lives. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to build this. Let me copy the build command. Excuse me. So I'm going to build this, and it's going to go pretty fast because I've already built it before. All the layers were downloaded. All right, now it's built. Great. So the first thing I need to do, if I want to run it, I have to run Mongo first, right? So I'm going to run Mongo, and if we come over to Docker Desktop, right, you can see I've got this filtered to any container that's got tofu in its name, right? So I'm going to name these tofu Mongo, tofu admin server. Nothing's running right now. I'll come back into my terminal. Let me run my tofu Mongo. All right, copy the command, bring it over, paste. All right, so I'm running Docker run. I'm going to remove it when it's done running. I'm going to run it in the background. I'm calling it tofu Mongo. Unfortunate line break. I'm exposing port 27017, and this is the Mongo latest image. All right, great. I'm going to run it. Fantastic. And so now if I run my admin server, let me copy this command. All right, check this out. I'm doing the same thing, running and removing. It's going to run in the background. It's called tofu admin server. Here's where it gets funky. I'm passing in an environment variable, Mongo URI, and I'm pointing it to my localhost 27017. This is going to run on port 8084, and it's the image that I just built. So let's run it. Awesome. So now if I come back into Docker Desktop, there they are. If I inspect, great, Mongo is running on 27017 and admin server 8084, both exposed on the local host. Okay, so in theory, if you don't know how this is going to end already, they should be able to talk to each other. Let's find out. So now I'm in Insomnia, and if you're not familiar, it's kind of an alternative to Postman. I prefer it. It's got a dark mode. So I'm going to send this request to localhost 8084, and we're going to see what happens. Keep in mind, as of now, both containers are running. But let's see what happens when I send this request. I'm going to request get resources, which if you remember from the Node.js file, that's going to talk to MongoDB, right? And it's going to make a query. Well, why is it taking over 10 seconds to make a request on the same host? It's not like we have a ton of network latency. The answer is they can't see each other. They're not actually on localhost. So what's going to happen? This is going to time out at 30 seconds, and it's going to crash my server. And we're going to see it right now. Error, nothing to return. We come back into Docker Desktop. Where is it? It's gone. So the reason being that they're not actually on the same host. They're on totally different hosts, and I can prove it. Let's come back into terminal, and we'll see what's actually going on here. All right. Clear this out. I can paste this command in, docker network ls, and that's going to show me all the networks inside my Docker environment. I hit enter. The big one that we want to pay attention to is this bridge one. That's where almost all of my Docker containers are going to run. Clear this out, enter, enter. And if I run docker network inspect, there it is, inspect bridge, here's what it's going to show me. I've got a container named tofu Mongo, and it has an IP address, 172.17.02. That's not my local network. Inside the Docker runtime, it's being allocated, oddly enough, its own MAC address. Weird. And it's also getting an IP address. So if I want to connect to my Mongo from my Tofu admin server, I actually have to point it to this IP address, not localhost. So let's try that. Let's see if that works. All right, I've got my Tofu admin server command that I'm going to copy and paste in here. Right? I'm going to clear this out. But instead of pointing to localhost, I'm going to point to 172.17.0.2. What do we think is going to happen? I'm going to run this, right? We come back into Docker Desktop. They're both running. Fantastic. And now I can come into Insomnia, make the same request, and it comes back with no resources. It actually hit the database. I can even post some resources. If I come in here and I look, I'm going to post this body with some dummy resources. I post it in. Fantastic. Right? And I can get those back again. Hey, it's working. It's talking to Mongo. All because instead of passing in localhost, I passed in the actual IP address that Docker exposes for Mongo. How cool is that? Now, you're probably thinking this all could have been solved with Docker Compose. You're right. It all could have been solved with Docker Compose. Why? So if I stop these running containers, right, and I come back into my terminal and I run cat Docker Compose, pretty sure I put the A in there. YAML, yep. All right. So I did go through the arduous and painful task of writing a bunch of YAML, and here I've got my image, right? That's going to run my admin server, and I've got the Mongo. Notice I don't even have to expose the Mongo port. Why? Because they're running in the same network. I don't have to expose Mongo to my local network in my local host in order for the admin server to talk to it. That works the same way, whether in Docker Compose or in just straight up Docker containers. Okay, if I come back in and I run Docker Compose up, right? Great. All my services are going to start. Everything's working. Everything's happening. Mongo's doing what it does. And I come back into Insomnia. I can make this same request. Localhost 8084. We'll send it off. And I get resources back. Now, this is a brand new container running in Mongo, so it doesn't have any data. I can do the same post, right? Post some dummy data in. There they are. I can get them back. Fantastic. Why? Well, if we come into Docker Desktop, you can kind of get an inkling as to why, right? See, we have this container namespace that's running where we have Mongo 1 and app 1, right? Pointing to our two containers. Well, that's kind of half the story. If we come back in here, I'm going to open a new terminal. And from here, I can run Docker network ls. That's going to show me I've got this new Tofu admin server default. The reason that Docker containers can talk to each other easily with custom DNS inside of a Docker Compose file is because a custom network is set up specifically for them. So if I set up names for these services, right? Remember, if I cat my Docker Compose, right, the name of the service becomes the DNS name, the DNS entry for these containers. And that's why I can talk to MongoDB on Mongo, pointing to the name of the service, Mongo 27017. So within Docker, keep in mind, there's always this internal network that's being utilized. And whether you're running in standalone containers or you're running in Docker Compose, you have to keep in mind, it's not technically running on your local host. How cool is that? We've finally figured out why one Docker container can't talk to another Docker container. Pretty awesome. If you like this content, feel free to drop a like on the video. If you want to see more of it, please subscribe. And if you'd like to see other things that I'm not covering, please feel free to add a comment. Tell me what you'd like to see.